it's Anissa. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing another review, but instead of doing a foundation like we have been the past 4 videos, we're gonna do a powder foundation. So this is the new One Size Beauty Turn Up the Base Versatile Powder Foundation. And then I'm also going to do like a mini review of this new Secure the Blur Magnet Primer and give you guys my thoughts on this, but mainly on this. Just a little disclaimer for you guys. I am pretty much combination, and when I say combination, my T-zone is pretty oily, but the edges of my face are pretty normal, like my cheeks up here, but right in here gets oily, but up here usually stays pretty fine. I'm solely giving you guys my opinion based off of my experience. I will still recommend it to you guys. Most of the time I have found, and you will find with most makeup products, if someone with the same skin type as you likes a product, you usually will. Does that mean you're going to all the time? No. I try to give you guys recommendations of other things that I like that I think are similar to this. If I end up not liking it, or if you're a different skin type than me, something that I might recommend to you. The past couple of videos, if you're interested to see what I think of these two products, then keep on watching. But before you go any further, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I post on this channel every 4 days, so you never have to miss me for too long. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. All right guys, welcome to day 1 of this review. It's technically day 2 because I have technically tried this once, but I ended up not testing it all day because I just wasn't feeling it. I was having a really rough day, to be honest. So I was like, I'm taking this off and I'm going to sleep. And I'm actually kind of glad that I tested it kind of before the video, if you consider it that. I came up with a new game plan. I think it's gonna work a little bit better. Video is really specifically over the powder foundation, but I did wanna go ahead and try this primer. This is the new One Size Secure the Blur Makeup Magnet Primer. First game plan was to test it for 4 days. And so what I was gonna do is I was going to use it one day with a tinted moisturizer in this primer, and then one day with a tinted moisturizer and another primer to see just how much this helped it. I was gonna try it one day with a natural finish foundation, and then another day with a matte finish foundation. I went ahead and I was filming the first day of this with the tinted moisturizer. It looked pretty light in the pan. It ended up being a lot darker than what I thought it was going to be. My reasoning for doing tinted moisturizer, natural finish foundation, and matte foundation was to see how it worked with all different types of products. I hesitated to use it as just a powder foundation, but the only reason I didn't do that is because I asked you guys in another video to let me know if there are any of you that do that, and nobody seemed to say that that was what they do. So I was gonna try that for you guys, but personally, I'm not doing it because you guys didn't tell me anything different. I feel like I would be a little bit biased because that's not something that I do. If I'm doing light makeup, I always do tinted moisturizer and powder foundation. I just have to. I never do just powder foundation. If that's something that you guys want me to do in the future with powder foundations, then let me know and I will do it. Originally, I was using the SEPHORA Matte Perfection Tinted Moisturizer, and this is like a perfect match for me, but that powder is too dark. Today, I'm going to use this e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. My first impressions, I really like this. It's not a watery texture, but it's super lightweight. It doesn't feel greasy, and it almost mattifies down on the skin. We're gonna see just how much pore filling and stuff it does like that, because it claims to be an ultra blurring, pore refining primer that mattifies and evens out skin's texture, gripping makeup, and it's also supposed to have a better application. So I definitely think that it has the mattifying part down. We're gonna have to see about the pore filling and blurring and smoothing and all that when we get to application. I'm going to be using the color 425 in Tan. This is just an e.l.f. complexion sponge. I think this comes in the trio. It's the big one out of the trio. I'm hoping that using a cream that is a little bit lighter will help even out the fact that that powder is so dark. You guys can see it's gonna look a little crazy at first, and I probably really didn't even need that much. I look scary right now, but makeup is really truly a process. It really looks rough at times. You're like, okay, even I'm like question what I'm doing sometimes, and then usually it ends up turning out pretty decent. And I just got back from vacation, so this is even lighter than it was the first time I tried it. But that's why sometimes I keep foundations that are an exact match for me. I like to keep ones that are specifically lighter than me, darker not so much. It's a little easier to correct something that is lighter than darker. I really don't mix foundations so much unless I really like the way that two formulas work together. It's more of if I have like a light foundation, I will use a dark powder foundation, or if I have a dark foundation, then I will use a light powder foundation, or I'll just use two that are the same. Okay, let's see what this did for my pores. I don't know. I don't really feel like it did too much for around here. Application is one thing, but actually testing it and wearing it is a completely different thing. So that's really what I'm looking for, especially between today and tomorrow. TRUBLEND Undercover Concealer in the color T700 Caramel. Under the eyes, I have been trying this powder and I figured it didn't really matter for today because I'm not worried with what's going on around the under eyes. This is the Hourglass Real Translucent Setting Powder, the most expensive setting powder I own. And I don't know, I've been trying it with different concealers and I don't know. I'm waiting to find the companion for this. One Size Turn Up the Base Versatile Foundation Powder in Dark 4G. For those of you that do not know, this brand is owned and created by Patrick Starr. He is an awesome beauty influencer here on YouTube. I have watched him for years. He was actually the first boy that I ever watched do makeup. This comes in 32 shades and it actually looks like the shade range is pretty inclusive. Most of the time I have seen in some complexion products, it leans more onto one side of the spectrum. This looks pretty even and it also looks like it doesn't have a lot of hops and skips. It looks like it's pretty filled in. It claims to be a buttery smooth, medium to full buildable coverage powder foundation that delivers a 12-hour multi-use formula in a soft matte finish. The component is very, very nice. It feels very weighted. It says that you can apply it with a brush or a beauty puff. And I do not have his beauty puff, but I do have this one from Laura Mercier and it is dirty, but it's the same product. I'm gonna do half of my face with this and then another half with a actual powder brush. I'm nervous. Please work. Okay, but do y'all see the coverage that has? But it's really dark still. It might even be more noticeably dark, but oh my gosh, look at the coverage on that. Keep in mind, all this is with one dip. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna have to put this underneath my eyes because I'm gonna look way... Okay, I look crazy. Did I use too much? I just dipped into the product once. I also noticed this the first day I used it. You can see it's splotchy, so like where I first applied it and even up here on my forehead. And again, this is what Sephora matched me to. It has coverage, like you guys can tell. And I think even with me using such a light foundation, it made it even more noticeable how good the coverage is on it. That kind of looks crazy. This is bringing me back to that full face of first impressions when I used the KVD powder. It did smooth. Let me see if I go over this with a powder brush. I don't know if it's already set in stone because it is this cream. So that could be another thing too. Like kind of how when you prime your eyelids with that sticky base, your shadow sticks to it because it just adheres to the cream really well. But the only thing that scares me is I really don't have a lot of really super light foundations. I think I have one. I don't think I have a natural one that is super light. So maybe we'll have to pass on that. On my neck, it actually doesn't look that bad now that I've really buffed it out, but it is still pretty splotchy in certain areas, but I'm just buffing my little life away. Okay, that looks a little bit better. The coverage on that reminded me of the coverage of the KVD one. After buffing it out, I feel like the splotchiness is not as bad as what it was. And again, I was afraid to do my eyebrows first because of this reason. I really wanted to be able to get into my skin and everything like that. Now that it's blended out, it really does not look that bad. I found with a lot of powder foundations, they look really light in the pan and they just end up being, I don't know if they oxidize or if it's different because it's not necessarily pressed anymore and you've dispersed the product. I'm just gonna take the same brush and go ahead and go in with this. Yeah, see off the bat, there's still coverage, but that puff definitely had a lot of coverage. And I'm wondering if it looks so splotchy because it is so dark versus once I blend it out, it seems to actually be pretty decent. Even though this does have more coverage with the puff, I may end up using it with the brush because you guys see I'm really not getting any splotchiness at all. It's really easy to blend out versus maybe it's like too much coverage with the puff. They medium to full. For this side, definitely probably in between medium to full, but leaning more on the full side of things. But I'm really curious to see how this works with other products. One day I may do cream blush and cream bronzer. Today I'm gonna do powder and see which one works better because when I tried the Fenty skin tint, it seemed to like cream products a lot better than powder. But that was a cream, so that may be why. So maybe I'm curious to see if this likes powder more because it is a powder. It looks a lot better than it did the first time around. If you have dry skin, I really do not think that you will like this because this is something I never noticed until I used it the other day. I kind of have a little bit of a dry patch. The part of my cheekbone that sits underneath my eye is a little bit scaly. And you can definitely see that. We're gonna see what happens when I put setting spray on it because usually setting spray will help to melt your powder products and really just help them look seamless. My cheeks look really good. My pores are doing all right. To give you a reference to my neck, if anything, my face is a little bit darker than my neck, but it is a lot better than what it was the other day. I wish I would have kept the footage, but I had to delete it because I needed space for this video. If you like look from the side, it all blends pretty nicely. My under eyes look super brightened because this is a little bit darker. I'm gonna go ahead, put my powder products on, and then I will come back to you guys. I went ahead and finished the rest of my face. I'm honestly pretty happy with how this is turning out. I think my really only complaint is the fact that it is a little bit darker than what I am. And thinking about the splotchiness you guys saw, especially on this in my face, it was way, way worse to begin with. And I think it was because the powder puff gave so much coverage. I honestly think that if it was lighter, it would not look as splotchy. I'm not saying that that's what it is. I'm saying that could be a possibility. It also could just be that no matter what color you are, it's gonna look a little bit splotchy. But if you think about it, in theory, if it is your color, it's not going to look lighter in certain places and darker in certain places because it's the same color as your skin. It has great coverage. I honestly have not seen a powder have that good of a coverage. I've also really never used a powder puff with pressed powders. I usually use a powder puff with loose powders. This is why we use different techniques and tools. I tell you guys all the time, the tools that you use are just as important as the makeup that you buy. You can buy the most expensive makeup. If you don't have good tools, it's not gonna matter that you have the best makeup in the world because it's not going to perform like the best makeup in the world. I did use the NYX Bare With Me setting spray. It seemed to work really well with the other powder products. It's not pulling really weird or anything at all. I have a lot of texture on my skin. I don't know what's going on. I have been drinking a lot of water, so I'm thinking that my skin is kind of just purging everything that is from underneath the surface. If you have this and you can find your color and your match, use it with this powder puff. With how much coverage this had, if you're somebody that wears just powder foundation, I think you would really, really like this because it did very exceptionally well with the powder puff. It is currently 10:30. I started filming at about 9:30-ish, and I'll have this makeup on for about 12 hours. That's another thing. This claims to wear for 12 hours. I'm really curious to see how this wears on my T-zone. I'm honestly really not worried about my cheeks. My cheeks look really good, and my cheeks are something that usually look really good all throughout the day because they are more normal versus my T-zone in between my eyebrows, this part of my forehead, around my nose. It gets very, very oily. It starts to break down makeup. I'm curious to see how long it takes my oils to kind of start peeking through, and I'm also curious to see if my products are gonna separate or anything like that, because sometimes even though products, the oil breaks through, it doesn't look weird. It just looks shiny versus sometimes you have products, the oil and the product don't mix well together and it separates and it looks really bad on your face. I will see you guys when I'm ready to take this off. Guys, I'm finally at the end of my day. It is 8:45, so I've had this makeup on for about 11 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and talk through the pictures and then I'll tell you guys kind of like my overall experience for today. This is my starting picture. We look nice, we look good. Honestly, for how much texture I have on my face right now, I thought that this looked really, really good. It did not accentuate my texture, but you can't expect powder to get rid of your texture. You can't expect any makeup to get rid of your texture. I just expect it to not make it look worse, and this did not. This picture was taken at 11:12, so this is about 2 hours into the wear. Again, you really can't see that my oil or shine is starting to break through anywhere. My cheeks look flawless. The only thing I noticed, it really broke up around my nose very, very quickly, like probably 2-3 hours into the wear, if that. This next picture is at 1 o'clock, and again, we're still looking pretty good, but you can see that my shine is starting to break through around my nose right here. 4 hours into the wear, which is really impressive for it to be just around my nose. Really didn't start peeking through on my forehead just yet. I took some videos at 2:11, so I'm gonna play those for you guys. We are on hour 5. This is what I'm looking like. This is what I look like in the sun. Hi. Okay, so it's actually not breaking down. My oils are starting to come through, which I was curious to see how it would mix and blend. I told you guys sometimes they separate, sometimes it just allows the oil to come through and you just look glowy. My cheeks look really good. My forehead and my T-zone don't look bad. They just look a little bit oily. My pores, I can't really tell. I'm having a lot of breakouts right now, so I can't tell if it's really my texture or my pores, but you guys can see. I'll let you be the judge of that. Also, I was only wearing my mask for an hour, and this is how much came out. So like a pretty good amount. It doesn't claim to be transfer proof, but that is something I feel like I should mention to you guys. And then we are on 3:30. So I'm looking very glowy, especially right in here as I'm looking glowy now, and my nose and my chin. Here's the video for my cheeks. It didn't look like the makeup was breaking up or anything weird like that. Again, my shine was just coming through, which that can be fixed with blotting powder. This video is at 6:09. The lighting was a little bit different, but you guys can see like my makeup looks really good in just regular natural lighting. It does not look like I've been wearing it for, at this point, 9 hours, 8 hours. Okay, this is what it looks like with flash. So again, as you guys can see, the forehead is oily. She's oily, but it doesn't look bad. It just looks shiny. There really was not a whole lot of makeup in my mask, and I wore my mask for I think 6 hours in all today, just to like get up close for you guys. My cheeks actually have not changed very much. My pores look pretty much the same as they did all day, although my forehead is pretty shiny. I'm gonna bring you in as close as I can so you guys can see my forehead. It doesn't, the makeup's not hanging on weird or anything like that. It's just shiny. And then over here, you guys can see my chin is just a hot mess anyways. My makeup did not feel heavy all day. It honestly doesn't even feel like I'm wearing makeup. I feel like I could wear this makeup for like another 3-4 hours, which says a lot for me to have a CC cream on and a full coverage powder on. That's why I'm so impressed, because even though the shade isn't perfect, I can tell that the formula is good. I want to give it a 10 out of 10, but I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 just because of the color. I will see you guys at the end of tomorrow. Good morning, guys. It is day 2. You know I just could not stay away from you guys. I wanted to go ahead and jump on here and let you guys know kind of what I'm thinking while I'm thinking it. That way I don't forget. I feel like today looks a lot better than it did yesterday. I did go ahead and use this Haley's Beauty Reset Prime Foundation Primer, and I feel like my pores just look a lot more smooth, if that makes sense. That was the closest thing in my collection that I had that I could compare to the one size. It claims to blur your pores and also do a little bit of mattifying. I'm gonna add a little bit more powder to my face because I kind of had a little bit of a different technique today. So I kind of figured yesterday that it was looking dark, not only because the CC cream was so light, but because I was packing it on so densely. So once I packed it on, it stuck to that cream and it didn't want to move. I went ahead and I got my product and I lightly powdered, like very lightly started powdering, and then I went in a little bit more intensely. So I kind of let that first light layer stick, but then went in a little bit more heavily. That way the product didn't look splotchy. I can go in with a little brush, yeah, and see that fix that. The only place I feel like it looks somewhat patchy is right here in my forehead. I feel like everywhere else looks good, but I will say my forehead still kind of does reflect a little bit, but again, it does claim to have that soft matte, so it's not super matte. I just feel like it looks a lot smoother. I was gonna do 4 days, but the only reason I was gonna do 4 days is because I wanted to do 2 days with tinted moisturizer, 1 day with natural foundation, and then 1 day with matte foundation. Well, since I didn't really use a tinted moisturizer, I used a CC cream, which that's gonna have about medium coverage, and it has a natural finish. I felt like I could just combine the tinted moisturizer days and the natural foundation days together. So this will be day 2, and then tomorrow we're gonna see how it does with a matte foundation. And also tomorrow I'm going to use cream, blush, and bronzer versus powder to see how it does with that. But my skin actually looks really pretty. It still feels really lightweight. I started filming this at about 7 o'clock. It's 7:23 now. I will only be wearing the mask for like 2 hours of the 12 hours. Now I will be wearing the makeup for more than 12 hours, but of the first 12, I'll only be wearing it for 2. So I wanna see if it does any better today. I'm gonna touch up about halfway through, and then I'm gonna touch up when we get on camera tonight. That way we can see just how much product can be put on top of it. Let me know what you guys think. I honestly think it matches me a little bit better today too. I was able to be a little bit more light-handed with the product all over the face. And by the way, I did not use the powder puff. I used the brush. So yeah, I will see you guys at the end of the night. All right, guys, it is the end of the day. It is currently 8:55 at night, so 9 o'clock. I've had this makeup on for almost 14 hours, which is really crazy. I did go ahead and touch up. You guys saw me 5-ish hours ago when I touched up last time. I'm just gonna hold it for a second. This is what my face looks like. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go ahead and look up close. So keep in mind, I kind of forgot. You see all these lines on my face? Yeah, I just got my eyelashes done. So she was kind of like pressing onto my forehead and other stuff like that. But I did take a picture right before I left. I decided that because she kind of was interfering with the makeup, I'm gonna use the actual pressed powder today to blot. And then tomorrow we'll use a blotting powder because I do want to see how this mixes with other makeup that's meant to touch up. Dip in and kind of do what I was doing before. So kind of lightly start and then pack it a little bit more. It still does look a little bit splotchy, but the shine has gone away pretty much. Oh yeah, you can definitely tell over here, like the shine is completely gone on my nose at least. I've had this makeup on for 7 hours, so I'm just now touching up. I'm thinking that because it's darker, and I told you guys this on day 1, because it is darker, it does look splotchier on my forehead more easily. I don't know, tell me if you guys have that problem too. It actually looks, I mean, I'm not gonna touch my cheeks up because my cheeks look pretty much perfect besides my texture that I have going on. Could be looking splotchy too because my CC cream from underneath rubbed off. My pores still look really good. I feel like the Hailey's Beauty Primer is performing better than the One Size one is, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do for tomorrow. That did help, so we're gonna see how long it takes the oil to break through. Now, it may be a little bit different because I don't have the CC cream on anymore. It did not cake up. It doesn't look super cakey in those areas that I just touched up or anything like that. It still looks really good. So this is what I'm looking like now. My makeup actually rubbed completely off on my nose because I was wearing my mask. My oils did break through again here. I feel like they don't look as bad as they did the first time. So I definitely, it does not feel heavy. For me to be wearing this makeup for 14 hours, I want to accentuate that to you guys because most of the time when I wear makeup for this long, it's all I can think about when I'm wherever I am. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to take this makeup off. Versus this is not like that at all. My cheeks really look decent, and keep in mind, this is 14 hours of wear with no touch up at all. So my shine is starting to peek through. My nose is looking a little rough, and just for the fun of it, put on a third layer just to see how much we can really build this up before it gets cakey. Let's see, it takes the shine away. Shine is completely gone. Okay, so now it's definitely starting to look a little cakey. You guys can see it actually turned a different color. This side versus this side. I'm getting ready to take this makeup off, but I thought that it would be kind of interesting to see what it would look like after 3 layers. I would not ever recommend putting 3 layers of powder foundation on top of liquid. When I touched up, you guys can tell where I put that powder. So you guys can see, I mean, I look really textured. I honestly looked better before I put this the third layer on. Even though I was shiny, it didn't look like I had been wearing the makeup for 14 hours versus now you're like, okay, how long has she been wearing that makeup for? I really didn't have to touch up until what, like 6-7 hours, and I never wear my makeup for that long ever. I will see you guys tomorrow. Welcome to day 3, the last and final day of this review. If you guys can tell anything different about me, I actually tried winged eyeliner for the first time in, oh my gosh, 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, and it actually came out really good. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys because I care about your hard-earned money. I honestly like the Hailey's Beauty Primer better than this Secure the Blur Makeup Magnet Primer. Now, it is really nice. The consistencies are completely different, but they pretty much do the exact same thing. They're both going to mattify, they're both going to blur. Honestly, I think this one does a little bit better of a job of keeping your pores filled. I would have to use this more to let you guys know if it's really worth the money. Primer is something that I feel like the drugstore does really well at a very reasonable price versus the high-end stuff does. And I tell you guys that all the time. I think I said it earlier in today's video that there's some stuff that the drugstore can do better at a lower price than high-end makeup can do, and then there's some stuff that high-end makeup just does better than drugstore makeup. Just for the sake of today's video, I am gonna go ahead and use this one again, but over the two, I prefer this one. This one is definitely a little less thick than the Hailey's Beauty one. The past 2 days, I have not put extra primer on my problem areas, but today I'm going to. That way we can see if that helps with the amount of time that I have to blot if I do. I'm not putting a crap ton on, but I definitely am putting extra on my target areas. And it does not feel super heavy or anything like that. It actually feels really breathable on the skin. You can try it if you want to, but again, I feel like the drugstore, just to be honest with you guys, have things that are very similar to this. If you're looking for affordable primers, I really recommend trying the e.l.f. primers. They have something for literally everybody. They have luminous, poreless, mineral face primer, matte face primer, poreless face primer, and I like those because I can mix them and kind of like customize my own primer. I don't know what foundation I'm gonna use. Okay, so I have two. I'm either going to use this Juvia's Place I Am Magic Velvety Matte Foundation, and this is in the color Nairobi 410, or I'm going to use this NARS Soft Matte Complete Foundation. I have an in-depth review on this. This stuff is amazing. This is in the color Macao Medium Deep 4. You guys are probably asking, Anissa, why are you using a full coverage foundation with a full coverage powder? Because that's what I usually do. I will either usually use a medium coverage foundation or a full coverage foundation. I know that can seem like overkill to some people, but that's personally what I like to do. It just kind of gives me an insurance policy and I like the way that it looks. We're just going to swatch these and we're just gonna see which one is lighter. This one right here is Juvia's Place, and this one right here is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Foundation, and the Juvia's Place one is slightly lighter, so we're gonna go ahead and use that for today. I am not going to put like a whole bunch on just because this stuff is so freaking full coverage. You'll see what I mean in a second. It is on the thicker side. I'm gonna start with a small amount. I don't think I've ever used this little, and then we're gonna build up because I don't want to look super cakey. forgot what matte looked like because I have been trying so many natural foundations, which is fine because there are some that I like. Okay, I'm not gonna put any more on. And that actually feels really lightweight. I haven't used that in a while, but maybe it's because I didn't use a whole bunch. And this is actually not an e.l.f. sponge, guys. This is the Haley's Beauty sponge. And I found with these, at first they're not super stiff. They are pretty soft to begin with, but the more you wash them and the more you get them wet, the softer they become. I wanted to see how this powder foundation worked with cream blush and cream contour. So I'm gonna be using this Ratchet, look at how dirty this is. This is the Milk Makeup Matte Bronzer, and this is in the color Blaze. This is so natural, but I'm afraid that it's going to go away because my powder's so dark. It's not so much about it physically looks like from a far distance. I want to see how the products are actually mixing together. Next is cream blush, and I'm just going to be using this e.l.f. Putty Blush, and this is in the color Caribbean. I'll go ahead and show you guys what it looks like. It's a super pretty like berry color. Now I'm gonna go ahead and set my under eyes. The moment of truth, guys. We're gonna go ahead and go in with this powder. I dip into the product, and then I'm going to lightly tap on my face and then kind of blend it in. Usually I would just go in with like packing motions, really dense packing motions to help pack that product, soak it into the skin. But because this is a little bit darker than me, I haven't been able to do that. Well, we can still see the blush, so that's good. And I also wanted to use this with a matte foundation to see if it's going to look cakey. Still looks a little splotchy, but it could honestly be because I really did not get super close to my brow. But my forehead, I feel like looks better than it did yesterday. This is a half and half, so this is the side with powder foundation, liquid foundation, and then this is just liquid foundation. You can still see my blush, which is really nice. Visually, this side of my face actually looks really good. Like my pores and everything look really, really good. It doesn't look cakey over here. It just looks like it has a little bit more coverage, and it also looks a little bit more blurred over here. The more that I have practiced the technique of just slowly patting it on and then rubbing it in, I don't feel like it looks as super dark and intense. I'm gonna go ahead and put some on this side. My skin looks really good. I'm really happy. I wanted to see if this would look really cakey with another full coverage product, and it does not so far. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in, that way you guys can see like my cheeks look flawless besides these few couple spots that I have. My chin looks really good. My nose actually looks really, really good for me to have as big as pores as I do. This is what my forehead looks like. You can see in that one area where it is splotchy, but I honestly do not think that it would look like that if it was more true to color, because you guys can see I kind of didn't get super close because I didn't want to mess my eyebrows up. Okay guys, so it is currently 10:32. I started filming at 10 o'clock. I will only have this makeup on until about 9 p.m. tonight. It won't be exactly 12, it'll be more like 11 hours, but I'm pretty sure that I know how I feel about this. I actually want to see how this does underneath the eyes. I do realize I already have powder on, and I think I did this the other day too, but I just need something to tone down the brightness a tad bit. So I'm just taking a smaller powder brush. I mean, it definitely helped, you guys can see, especially right up in here. And usually I do not put this much powder underneath my eyes. If my under eyes look bad, I'm really not going to blame it on the powder because I do already have another powder on. That really does not look bad, honestly, for it to be on top of another powder, and I think it definitely helped. I almost forgot, one of the biggest things that I like to do when I'm doing complexion is let you guys know how everything melts together when I put setting spray on it, and I just did, and it looks even better. I'm hoping it takes my oils a little bit longer to break through because I do have that mattifying foundation on and the mattifying setting powder, and then I put on a little bit extra primer. So in theory, it should last a little bit longer, but we'll see. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know how it did with the setting spray. All right guys, it is 3:27 right now, so I've had this on for 5.5 hours. My cheeks look really good. Around my nose and in between my eyebrows are starting to look a little rough. I'm gonna use this Haley's Beauty blotting powder. It does a super, super good job of not only mattifying, but also blurring what you have there. Completely gone, and it's not cakey. And keep in mind, this is 5.5 hours of wear, so most of the time I don't even wear my makeup for this long, so I wouldn't even have to touch it up if I wanted to, and my cheeks are fine. So I think if you have normal skin and you want to try this, I really think that you could get through the day without having to touch up, because my cheeks I didn't even have to touch. Versus if you're oily, you probably will have to touch it up. The past 2 days, my oil started to break through at like, what, hour 3? And we got to almost 5.5 hours today. I'll zoom you guys in and you guys can see what it's looking like up close. This is also something I wish I would have done sooner, letting you guys know what it looks like up close on this camera. After doing that, my makeup looks pretty similar to what it did when I first applied it. Doesn't feel super heavy. It feels a little bit heavier than what it did yesterday, but I couldn't even feel it yesterday, so I barely feel it today. It doesn't look cakey at all. I will see you guys in a couple of hours. It is currently 9:30, so I've had this makeup on for like 11.5 hours if we're gonna get like super technical. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about my pictures and then I'll kind of like wrap up my overall thoughts. This is my starting picture. I told you guys I was really happy with the way that it turned out from the beginning. This is what it looked like with flash. No shine at all. This next picture is 2 hours into the wear and still really no shine. This was at 2:30 today. You guys can see, I mean, it really only started to really break through on my forehead. And I think this was right before I blotted. This is what I looked like directly after doing the blotting. And I wanted to kind of tell you guys this. So this was really weird. It kind of looks like I have like a filter on my face wherever I put powder on it. But when I took another picture with flash, it looked fine in natural daylight. So I don't know, but that powder's never done that, so I'm not really sure. And then here's a video of what my cheeks looked like at 3:30. So that was 6 hours into the wear. This is what I look like now. I actually look pretty decent. My oils really did not peek through around my cheeks and my nose. My makeup did rub off, but it was really just my forehead. Looking up close, it did not hang onto the skin weird at all. Now, I want you guys to remember, my cheeks have not been touched all day. So except for like where the makeup has rubbed off. So obviously it's not transfer proof, but it did rub off a little bit more today, which I was surprised because it could be because I was wearing more makeup, so it was more noticeable. I'm gonna go ahead and quickly go through the claims of this powder foundation and then tell you guys if I think it met, which ones I think it met, if I would repurchase it, if I would use it again. Not gonna knock off for the shade range because I think the shade range is amazing. I actually think the price is pretty reasonable for the quality of the product, so I'm not gonna knock off for that either. It definitely is buttery smooth, medium to full coverage powder. And it does have a 12-hour wear in my opinion. When you're talking about how many hours of wear you can get, in my opinion, that doesn't mean, okay, this is when the oil is gonna break through. In my opinion, that's like, okay, this is when the makeup's gonna kind of start to look a little bit weird. But you guys saw yesterday, I wore that makeup for like 13, 14 hours and it still didn't look weird. Obviously it's changing because the oils are starting to mix with the makeup, but it has not separated physically because sometimes you will see that. Definitely is a soft matte finish. I would agree with that. And I think these shades are inclusive. So overall, I actually like this powder a lot more than the loose powder. If you're gonna go ahead and invest in one of them, I would invest in this. Also, I would tell you guys as a tip, I would recommend for you guys to whatever shade Sephora matches you, I would go ahead and go one lighter. You guys can see I made it work. Even though it was darker, I made it work. I would only go a shade lighter if you really, really want that full coverage with the powder puff. If you are just gonna use a brush, you can make it work. I will be using this again. I really like this. This is really impressive. I think that you would like this if you had normal to oily skin. I really don't think that you would like this if you had dry skin. And you guys saw it did really well with the blotting powder. So if you are somebody that likes to blot and touch your makeup up, it did fine with at least this product. I will continue to use this product off camera and on camera, and I would definitely repurchase. I'm kind of debating, and I'm sure I'll be able to make up my mind completely when I finish it, but I may go ahead and go a shade lighter just to see what it looks like. If you are not 100% certain on a product's shade and you don't live close to a Sephora, order it online, because if you buy it in store, you have to return it in store. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and let me know if you guys do end up trying this powder foundation, or if you've already tried it and what your thoughts are, or even the primer. Let me know what you guys think, or if you are going to pick up the primer, or if you're going to stick with your drugstore option. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.